Welcome to a brand new video, and in this video I'm interviewing one of my students, Rich. Now, a bit about Rich before we get into a very juicy interview in a bit. Before starting my mentorship program, Rich was making around 13K with his social media marketing agency. 2 months later, and after having gone through my mentorship program, he's currently sitting at 30K per month revenue with his agency and looking to take that to 50K per month in the next 6 months. Very excited to jump into this interview. We're going to be diving deep and talking about these shifts in strategy, systems, and processes he had to make to really take his agency to a whole new level, his view on hiring great talent, and a lot of more stuff. So without further ado, let's go right into it. I was going to ask, man, so I mean, a few days ago, for the people watching, you moved from London. Well, actually, yeah, London, right? You were in London in the UK.
Yeah, in London. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, from London to Lisbon, which is quite a big change. How are you finding Lisbon?
It's nice. I've been here a few times. That's the reason why I chose it. But yeah, it's hot there. I'm just getting used to the heat again, just because London is. You've been to London?
Yeah, I lived in London for like 6 years. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think you knew this. Yeah, I lived in London for like 6 years, and lived there for like, yeah, a few years ago. Well, a few months ago, I think. Yeah, a short while ago. So my last like place was just parallel or just off Kensington High Street, and then my first ever place was by Marylebone, like just off Marylebone Road, like close to Regent's Park.
Fancy.
Yeah, there is a posh. It's nice areas. I mean, one of the like, I love Marylebone. Like, if I were to live in London, like Marylebone for me is like the place. If not, like Kensington is another place that I like. But for me, Marylebone is like, I've got everything there. You know, like Regent's Park is very close. I used to play tennis there. Then you've got like Marylebone High Street is just such a vibe for me. Then you're close to like Mayfair, which is where I would go church. So I that was my hood, man.
That's like the bougie part of London, that's for sure. So you enjoying yourself when you was here.
Where were you in London?
So I've lived in London my whole life, right? So yeah. I was born and raised in Brixton, so the opposite end of the spectrum to what you just talked about.
No, Brixton has a certain energy to it, man.
Yeah, it does now, because it's obviously been like gentrified and whatnot. But yeah, now it's super hipster. Like, you go there, you get like a coffee for like £6, that sort of vibe. But when I lived there, it wasn't like that. It was very different. But yeah, where I was living last when I was in London was in like right next to the Olympic Park, so in East London. Yeah, it's a place called Stratford. Yeah. So it's really nice.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of like new developments there and all that, right?
A lot of stuff is going on there, so it might be bougie one day. Maybe as bougie as Marylebone, but who knows?
But Lisbon, like, how are you finding that? Why Portugal? Is there anything that attracts you to that culture?
Yeah, I feel like, first of all, it's like just the people are super friendly out here. I feel like it is fun, but it's not too fun, right? In the sense that I can go out when I want to and get some nice weather, drinks, rooftop bars, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not like smothered in fun, right? Because obviously I got grind mode at the same time. London gives you a lot of like that grind mode energy, but sometimes it's kind of hard to realize what you're doing, you know, the value of what you're doing or the reward. So I feel like Lisbon kind of gives you a bit of both.
Why do you think it's hard in London?
I think maybe for me personally, it's just because I'm used to it. Like, when you live somewhere, you don't really look at it from the perspective of a tourist, right? So I kind of just see London as, okay, this is the home base, but it's not necessarily like the new energy. And also, I feel like the energy in London sometimes can be a bit down. Like, everyone, like most people don't really like what they're doing.
Facts, dude.
And it's just that energy. I can just feel it. And for me, the energy is important, right? So, yeah.
I think I cannot agree with you more. And I actually like pretty much every single point there. I think London is cool to grind and it does get you in that mindset. But for me, I don't know why, it's just like the energy is just not, it's not quite like the one you find in Portugal or Spain, you know? Sure, maybe in Spain, maybe like, I mean, the drawbacks of Portugal and Spain, maybe it's like, it does make it, maybe it's a bit more like of the lazy vibe, but I guess if you go to Madrid or like any of the, you know, Lisbon, right, you don't get any of that, right? So if you go to like the capitals in these countries, like you don't get any of that. Like in fact, there's the grind mode, but it's more uplifting energy. Like the weather is nice. The, you know, people are just seem generally much happier. You know, there's nothing there's nothing worse than going on London's like tube at 8 a.m. in the morning. That you walk away from, and literally you'll have like 3 years less of energy.
Yeah, everyone's just fighting each other. People complaining about someone stepped on someone's shoe. It's just no. To be fair, I never really commuted because I never was in that situation. But I've seen it, man. It's dangerous.
Yeah, I think Portugal is gonna become it's slowly becoming a great place to, you know, for entrepreneurs and just for people in general to work from. You know, the tax structure, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, like the NHR and all that stuff is quite cool, like for entrepreneurs.
I'm not sure. To be fair, I'm not that clued up with the tax structures here, but I do have plans for a UAE tax structure, but that might be a separate conversation. But
okay. So like you see Portugal as a 1 year stay, or so a short term stay?
I don't know. We can't even stay there for that long. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the Brexit laws, basically, they just F up the base for like people from the UK. So you've got like 90 days capped every 180 days in the EU. So I can stay here for max 3 months. Yeah. So I can stay here for the max of 3 months, and then I can't go anywhere in the EU after that. So I don't think we're even going to stay. Like, yeah, it's crazy, and that's all for Brexit. So it's like, it's just bullshit.
One of the things I was going to ask, because I know you're really big on this. I mean, it's hard to like see you on social media, right? You're not very active on Facebook and all that stuff. And obviously you even mentioned it, right? Like one of your priorities is to be in that grind mode. What is grind mode for you? Like what are some of the structures you've got in place, Rich?
In what sense? In terms of like,
as in like what? Yeah, as in what? If you're in grind mode, what are your hygiene standards? Like how many hours are you working? What time are you waking up? Like what are some of the non-negotiables for Rich?
For me, like I guess it's changed over the years. Like I'm not like some of the people that you've spoken to obviously like are much younger than me. Like I'm 28. So like I've kind of had different stages for different businesses that I've had, and I've kind of dealt with them differently. And for me now with this current company, with the SMMA stuff, I kind of like to have a routine where I actually go outdoors in the morning. Yeah. Just kind of to just get fresh air. So like I wake up probably around 6 a.m. I try not to set an alarm. And I just go for a walk. And the main thing for me is just so that I can, I don't know, like just get some fresh air, get some new energy into me before I start my day. I feel like if you start your day when you just go straight into work, it's kind of like your brain isn't as smart as it could be because you're just in some tunnel vision sort of mode, right? So like that's how I kind of start my day, go for a nice walk. Obviously the Lisbon is beneficial because going for walks here, you're just seeing like the beautiful vibes, right? It's just beautiful out here. And yeah, like the main thing for me is focus, right? And I am a bit extreme when it comes to that sometimes because I kind of like know like, okay, if I want to get to Y result and I'm here, there's only one way I can do that, and that's through doubling down. But at the same time, there needs to be some level of balance with it. So for me, I don't really go on social media unless I have like a real purpose to it. Like, I don't really do like mindless scrolling on my feed. I've kind of cut that out completely. I don't really get addicted to any of that. So I post on socials, but there's usually an ROI to it. So what I'm going to start doing more is posting more on my feed and stuff like that. But I do post stories. on my Instagram.
Yeah.
So if anyone's watching, check out the Instagram. You see some good juice. Yeah.
Already plugging, man. We haven't even started. Always got to plug.
The sales, man. We're selling at all times. But yeah, so like on Insta, like right now, I kind of like have two main purposes. Like one is kind of like obviously personal branding, just to kind of look like, you know, authority figure when it comes to just e-commerce in general. And also I'm getting a growing audience of people that are either running e-com brands or like running like other stuff, right? Maybe it's business or whatever. So that's kind of like what I'm pushing content out for at the moment. Yeah.
Part of that strategy is like the profile funnel and the cultivation. What would you say that's also part of it? Like you've seen an ROI on those type of activities?
Yeah, like I feel like if you're obviously just running like standard outreach, like let's say you're trying to acquire clients or whatever, that's obviously good, but you need to kind of also have a way to like keep and nurture these people if possible, because that is unlimited, right? Like you've obviously got a personal brand, not saying that you leverage that for acquiring clients, but I'm sure it can be helpful, right? Just in general, like, because yeah, that's just the way I see it. There's no loss of having a personal brand. So that's something that I'm going to start working on, because I've just neglected mine completely, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned you've cut out social media and you don't get addicted. Obviously for a lot of people that is like a task, and that is something that they would admire. What are some of the things that have worked for you to not fall into the trap of social media and to be able to pretty much cut it out from your life and actually use social media for your own benefit instead?
I think for me, it's just the way that I think about social media in general. I feel like the problem that a lot of people get into is that they just follow like a bunch of trash pages and stuff like that. And those pages have offer no value to them other than like some dumbass meme or some shit, right? And that then consumes loads of time, and then that costs you money, right? If you're spending time watching some stupid videos all day, you could have been selling or improving your systems, whatever it is, right? Even just doing something with your family is better than just doing that, right? So I think for me, what's helped is like I've like done like a massive purge in terms of people that I'm following. Make sure that the people that I'm following actually add value to me, whether it's like things about like mindset, consciousness, like fitness, or just things that are like relevant that I actually care about, that will add value. So then when I'm going through my feed, I'm seeing things that are more relevant, and then I'm not really like in a place where I'm going to be stuck on that type of content, like binging it or anything. So that's like the main thing. But yeah.
So you would say like actually follow stuff that adds value to your life, and don't follow too much, even if it adds value. Just like keep it tight.
Yeah, and also like if you just got to think about like, I guess if everyone's a media buyer watching this, but like the ROAS, right? I would say the ROAT, the return on or time spent. So that's like the ROATs, the return on time spent. Yeah, or Instagram time, whatever it is, the rate. I feel like you got to look at the return on your time on a daily basis. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that time really is money. And if you are doing stuff that doesn't contribute to your life, not just in terms of like your business, but like family or whatever you care about, then that's costing you a lot of money, right? So that's why I kind of see things. If I see myself, so it does happen, right? You find one cool piece of content on the explore page or some shit, and then that takes you on a trail where you're just spending 15 minutes just looking at bullshit, right? Yeah. Then you just have to kind of like have the attitude where you can kind of correct yourself. And I guess that comes down to your own awareness. But yeah, it's really about just your own personal discipline. And I feel like it gets easier the more you get disciplined in other areas as well.
Yeah, I feel like you don't become aware of this until you value your time, and you don't value your time until you actually do shit with that time. Speaking of, like you mentioned one of the things that, I mean, I really like this when you said the return on your time spent. Here's maybe a bit of a curveball. Are there any activities that you engage in on maybe weekly, daily, monthly basis, that it cannot be work, okay? That is not work related, but that you think is generally a good investment of time. And the reason why I ask that for people watching this is because, and I talked about this in one of my one-on-one calls with the mentees. I'm like, dude, there's certain things that are not work related, but that you can say yes to because they generally will help you move forward. Sometimes less is more, and the most productive thing is sometimes not to work, right? Or maybe to have that chat that you needed to have with this person, or get out of your head and all that stuff. So going back to the question, are there any like specific things that you do on a daily basis, weekly, that you see as a really solid return on time spent?
Yeah. So that actually is a good point, because one of the things I wanted to do when I got out here is sign up to a kickboxing class. Just because I just like to be active. I feel like if I spend like 3 days and I don't feel like my muscles are hurting, not in a bad way, but like as in you just done some training, then I feel like sluggish, right? And I feel like that affects a lot of things. So I feel like, having some kind of like physical activity can be very important. Those are the sort of things that I like to do. So like as I was growing up, when I was younger, I was always playing like football, right? All the time. Like that was my thing. I didn't care about business. I didn't give a I was just football, right? I got to the point where when I was like 13, 14, I had a trial with a professional club, a Premier League club called Fulham. At the time, they were doing decent.
Fulham has a great academy.
Their academy is very good, very good. So I was obviously playing for my school football team, and my school had quite a good football team. And I got scouted when I was playing for the team. I was like year 8, so I was probably like 12, 13. And they sent a letter to my house, right? And this tells you a lot about my attitude. So they sent a letter to my house. I saw this like embroidered letter. It just looked so professional. I've never really received a letter. I'm 12, 13. I've never had a letter addressed to me in my life, so I was confused, right? My mum opened it, and it basically said like, we received information from your school, your coach in the school, and they invited me to their training ground for a trial, right? And it was like a few months later that the trial was scheduled. The first thing that I did was that my birthday was coming up, right? And I said to my mum, like, can you buy me an exercise bike? Because I need to get my fitness up for this trial, right? And my mum still tells me to this day, like, that she was confused. Like, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Like a kid asking for an exercise bike. But for me, that's kind of like my attitude when it comes to anything. And I feel like, like if you want something, you kind of have to have the attitude that, yeah, you're going to get it, right? So for me, like when I was younger, football was the thing. If you know me, I was always playing football. Unfortunately, it wasn't something that became a success. I could have been one of those guys that were still playing conference level and all that sort of thing. But when I got to like 16, 17, and I saw all my friends that were playing in academies and whatnot, and I was like, nah, let me move on to another thing that I'm interested in, which was business. So that's kind of thing. I can't remember your question. I know I'm just waffling, but I can't.
No,
you even asked me.
I don't even remember. No, but I like the story, man. I think it does speak a lot about yourself, and the fact that preparation is half the battle, right? Like even when it comes to business, the way I see business a lot of the times is like, we are athletes, right? But instead of working with our muscles, and instead of like, playing with the football, right? Like we play with our brain. And so when you're going up against, and it's not always a competition, like you can focus on yourself, but you need to understand that you have to be at peak performance, right? To really perform at your highest level.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that's something that like I think about on a daily basis. So like when you're thinking about your sleep, right? If you wake up and you're groggy AF, like that is going to affect your ability to think properly and your decision making. And your decision making is everything with business. So like if you choose one outreach method over the other, or if you're split testing certain things in terms of what you're doing with your business, that's all your brain. Like there's no like magic button that you just press and it just automates everything. Like you have to be able to think. So like I feel like the athlete analogy is makes the most sense for business for sure.
What are some of the key traits that you've seen, maybe that you've developed over the years that have helped you get to the point that you're currently I'm not sure if it, because I mean, how much are you currently at per month, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so we've hit the 30K mark.
Okay.
That's 30K USD, to be honest.
Okay.
But right now, I would say like my next target in the next 3 months is 50K. And what I'm basically doing right now is just building out the systems to enable that, because what I've learned is that you can do certain things to get you to 30K, but at that 30K, all right, things start to break. So you need to have certain systems in your business that ensure that you don't go below that, or if you do go below, it's temporary, and it's capped at a certain amount, right? So basically, that's what I'm focusing on building right now in the team. Just in terms of like how I even like work with my team and my team members, how they are incentivized, how the back end systems work. So I'm doing less stuff involved with the agency and just focusing more on the sell side. But yeah, that's basically where we're at right now.
What are the key traits that you've developed over the years that are not, we'll talk about the strategies, the systems, all that stuff, but on a personal level, right? You talked about how you have this like obsession almost with treating yourself like an athlete as well, right? Like, looking at your sleep, getting exercise in. What are some other key traits, maybe mindsets that you've developed that have really helped you scale your business?
I'm just trying to think. I would say like for me, like anyone that knows me knows that if I say something, I have to do it. So if I'm telling you right now 50K, we'll talk again before the end of the year. I'll have 50K. Like that's kind of like for me, that's like the biggest thing. Like if I say something, I speak out into existence. I have to do it, not just because like I said it, but because now I've given that accountability. I've said it out to the world. I have to do it. I have to find a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like that ability to say something and do it. I feel like not many people do that. Everyone talks, but not many people take action. I feel like in terms of like mindset, the ability to just have awareness of myself. Like I don't know everything. I wouldn't be speaking to you if I thought I knew everything. And I feel like the ability to know where you need support and where there's gaps missing in your business. Like I'm talking about specific gaps. I feel like there's also the other end of the spectrum where people are like, I'm a baby, help me, right? And I feel like that's not how an entrepreneur is. That's not an entrepreneur. Like you're not a business person at that point. You just want somebody to save you, right? And I feel like that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a really solid point, man.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's like you need to like in terms of your mindset, you need to have awareness, right? Like a conscious awareness of the things that you're doing and the things that you potentially are doing wrong, right? And sometimes that can be a harsh thing to look in the mirror and realize, right? But I feel like you need to be able to do that because that way you're constantly making improvements on yourself, and which will obviously aid your business, right? So yeah, I'll say that's the main thing for me.
Being able to self-diagnose, right? And not like pass on the responsibility of your actions to someone else. You mentioned improvements, right? And you're constantly looking for improvements. When you first joined the mentorship, I think you were like at 17K.
Yeah, I think it was
or less.
No, it wasn't at 7. It was like 13K. Okay, yeah, 13K. I think I had hit higher, but I dropped down.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the improvements you knew you had to make before joining the mentorship, and then we'll speak about during the mentorship and after. But what are some of the improvements that you were looking to make with the agency where you thought something had broken or gone wrong?
Yeah. So obviously, when we first spoke, I told you that one of the main things for me is the systems. Like my agency was very messy before we had a conversation, and I worked with you, right? Like there's just loads of pieces everywhere, which meant that my time was, I wanted to do sales, right? And just bring in more brands, right? And I knew that I couldn't do that if I'm doing other stuff that's nothing to do with that, right? So I feel like the biggest problems that I was having was not clearly outlining my requirements and desires with my team, right? B, not having a smooth sailing operational system built in, right? So I've basically looked at what you've basically provided in terms of that. And I've even like added some finesse to it with like Zapier where necessary, right? Just to make it even easier for me, because I've got experience with Zapier from another business.
Yeah.
But that I feel like the ability to have the systems kind of just working. For example, like we onboarded another brand like basically in the past 24 hours, right? In the past 2 weeks, a week and a half, right? I've onboarded 3 brands. Yeah. Normally that would take me, that would be a headache, right? I would be like, okay, this is good. The money's in the bank. But at the same time, Jesus Christ, like, how do we do this? Yeah. And I feel like you've, your, you know, the processes that I kind of learned with you was those having those systems in place so that the team, not only do they know what to do with the brand and the brand is also happy, but also, I'm not doing any work. First of all, I don't do anything, right? Maybe I add somebody to Slack. That's about it. After that, I don't touch anything. And that basically means that, okay, I can literally, because I've got a system, right? Listen to this. I've got a system where when I bring on a board, when I bring a brand on board, yeah, they've confirmed, they've paid or whatever. I press a button on my phone. I basically move them on my phone to somewhere, and that sends off around 24 automations in terms of like sending like, because I've got a full team now, so I've got like a creative lead, I've got a copywriter, I've got a media buyer. Everybody has their list of tasks for the next 48 hours. There'll be automations pinging off left, right, and center, right? Off the back of that, right? And I wouldn't have even had the logic to think that that process is even possible without kind of like understanding, you know, your systems, right?
Right.
So, yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
No, that sounds very, very interesting. And on the process to results and well, the sales side of things, right? How much involvement do you have on that front? You don't have to get too deep, but when it comes to like those sales and all that stuff, obviously in the mentorship we extensively talk about it, but just to give viewers a little peek, right? Do you walk them through the process to results? Like, is that something that you guys talk about, or does it purely stay on a very superficial level in most cases when you're signing this e-com brands?
You mean in the actual presentation, the call?
Yeah, like strategy sessions and yeah, essentially.
So, because obviously I'll give you a bit more context, right? So, I've got media buying experience and sales experience, right? So I feel like for me, the media buying experience like helps a lot because I know everything when it comes to the ads. So like the confidence, it's not really like, I don't think the detail matters. I'm not talking to them about like CPCs and shit, like, but it's the confidence that you can get when you know what the hell you're talking about. Yeah. That comes across like in the calls. And my calls, if you were to watch one of my calls, they reek with confidence because I know I can deliver. It's just like, if you're talking to me, I can get you results. It's just a case of like, are you confident in your business? Like, it's not me. I'm not the problem. Like, can your business succeed? That's kind of like how I frame my conversations with my clients, also with prospective clients. And that's also a way that I also qualify and disqualify, because if they are a bit shady at that side, then there probably are a few issues with their business that they're not sure about themselves, right? And they're looking for, again, somebody to save them. And when you're bringing on brands and you start to scale up, you realize that you can't save every company. Some companies are just whack, right? And you're not a magician. You don't have a magic pill with the ads that just make them good. They need to have something there. So for me, the main thing is like, I feel like my sales calls, I present that, you know, I have the experience. I walk them through like some baseline things of how we would work together. And I present some results, right? And that's basically it. But I like to get them involved. So like the start of the calls is, you know, it's a rapport building, right? So yeah, that's basically it. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
No, 100%. And when it comes to the traits, right, that you've seen make great partners and great ecom brands, what are some of the traits, maybe the common patterns that you've seen with the brands that you are happy to onboard and the brands that you just crush it for and they go on to crush it?
Um,
Maybe you can talk maybe about founders as well, like certain people that you've really resonated with, that you've really hit it, and crushed it for.
mm, I would say like the one of the most, I would say the brands are obviously important and people can say, they have to have good Instagram photos, but I've seen a correlation between the owners, right? And the owners need to be the ones that are on point. Like if I'm on a call and the brand owner is just there's something seems off, usually they're disqualified, right?
Mm.
And I've taken on a bunch of disqualified brands like early on. I don't do it nearly as much now, like at all. I don't do it at all now, actually, but I used to, right? Just because, again, business is about cash flow, so you got to do what you got to do at the start, right? But anyway, so what I've learned from like having disqualified versus qualified is the brand owners are the most important factor, and um, the you kind of need to have like understand that they have confidence in their business. They need to believe in their business because you can jump on a call and they don't seem that confident about their brand. But also like there needs to be like some level of respect. If I have a call with somebody and they don't respect like my work or that they potentially may not respect my team, then I probably won't bring them on board, right? Like I just wouldn't want to work with them because I feel like now I've got choices. I don't, I think besides that, I would say they need to also have ambition with their brand. Like I make a lot of money from the ROAS. So if they don't want to scale up, then again, I wouldn't be that excited about them personally. Yeah.
Touching a bit on what you said, making a lot of money from the performance driven incentives, is that in terms of percentages, right? Of your revenue, like how much comes from like the fix, which I'm sure gives you a really solid peace of mind to obviously pay your team members and all that stuff, and how much comes from the ROAS, the ad profit or the performance driven incentives?
Yeah. Is this on average or is this per client? Like,
It could be like the total rev, but maybe you can look at the clients that you're currently onboarding.
yeah. Yeah. Cool. So right now, I would say half is coming from ROAS right now. And I would say in the next 3 months, as we scale up, it's probably going to be like 70 to 75% that comes from the ROAS, right? And this is why, for me, the team is important because if they can't deliver and you're just churning clients, you can't scale up. Like you scale up with retainers, like no, you're not going to get rich if that. Like if you divide 100K by a 2K, right, which is a retainer, like that's 50 clients,
It's not
right?
gonna happen.
It's not, it could happen, but that's a pain in the heart.
Well, with a ton of complexity, right? Which is not the type of business that we're building. But I mean, that's why I'm such a big fan of the ecom agency model, right? Because like you're literally taking some sort of ownership in these brands, right? And like you're making money as they grow, and it almost is, I hate this word, right? But passive income, because like as the brand grows, like the complexity doesn't really increase, right? Like if the ad spend grows, it doesn't really increase much complexity, especially for you, being very hands off on the team, on the team front, right? And the hiring. Are there certain, because one of the things you said is you were very clear about your requirements, right? And you were very clear about what was expected, and that was a big transition, right? And in building your A team and having A players. What are some of the things that you told them? Like what are some of these requirements you had for them?
So like the way that I bring on I bring on team members now that like I know first of all they're going to be here in like for the next few years, right? I'm not hiring for someone that's going to work on one account and that's like I don't like come on man, I'm not doing that. That's the first thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I tell them specifically is more around their mind. I try to understand like their mindset, right? So I've recently brought on board a 17-year-old, right?
Mm.
Ninja media buyer. And I said to him, you know what, you're not gonna start on any of my big accounts, but I believe you have potential, right? So if you show me that you can hustle, you show me you can continue to learn, then you're going to get like I'll make sure that you're fed well, basically, right? And I feel like for me and my team, I'm kind of making sure that, you know, first of all, like they need to not be lazy. And the way that I kind of decipher that is like um during like if I bring them on board, um the first week is kind of where I determine that. And I actually have like hired and fired somebody that was really good, but in the first 72 hours, there was loads of things that were red flags that I just had to let them go, right?
Mm.
So for me, it's really
what were some of those without getting too much into detail, right? But what were some of those like red flags that you were just like, nah, I've seen this, you know, before, and it's definitely not going to work out.
Yeah. So communication. Everyone can communicate in an interview, right? You're speaking to them, you're on a call. But as soon as you get somebody onto Slack and they have some tasks, how quick do they respond, and how do they respond? Like, are they giving you like one word responses, or are they actually taking the time to think about what they're actually doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to bring on robots, because if you bring on a robot, they're basically just a VA and an ads manager, and that means you still have to do work. I want to bring people on that can be independent. Therefore, they need to have a thought process themselves, right?
Yeah.
So like that was one of the things. And another thing was, what else is this dude doing? Yeah, another thing that was annoying me with this person was that they didn't really take the things serious. Like if there were certain tasks in front of them, because the way that I set things out is that when a client gets onboarded, they have like, there's a bunch of automations and tasks that are set up in our task management system. This particular person wasn't really completing all the tasks to the full extent, right? There'll be things missing. And for me, that's just a red flag, because that means that I have to look at you. And again, with these level of team members, I don't want to have to look over somebody's shoulders, because again, that takes time off my table, which I could be doing to sell and bring on more brands. So that affects my scale. So that's basically the main things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. As a good way to wrap it up, right? We've gone kind of through our journey, starting with the 13K, then onto the mentorship, and then now scaling to 30K per month. What are some of the things you've learned during? Well, it's been a very rapid scale, because how long has it been since you joined the mentorship? Like 2 months?
I think it's I can't even remember. I think it's 2 months.
Maybe a bit over that, right? What are some of the different mindsets that you've had to implement, some of the things that you've had to realize, like maybe just harsh truths of like scaling a business that you hadn't considered before? Because you mentioned, right, this brought a bunch of chaos into your life, and systems broke, and you had to restructure. So what are some of the lessons that you've learned, scaling things up with the mentorship and everything?
Yeah, I would say like in terms of the scale up side of things, I would say first of all, there needs to be structure, right? Your structure, like for me, my structure, even though I thought it was working, I knew obviously that it wasn't really working as I wanted it to be, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, there are ways in which you can run your agency and basically not do anything besides selling. And even then, you can then outsource the selling. So there should be, if your agency can't be built for you to not do anything, then you're not really on the track to hitting the big goals with your agency, right? Mm. And yeah, like you just have to like know that there's, for me, it was mainly realizing that there was some things that I didn't have in my thing, even though like I wasn't like, I've got 0 clients or anything. I still kind of consciously knew that I needed to improve certain things, and just having that thought process was what's helped me to get to where I am now. So yeah. Right, I hope that answers your question. I don't know if it does or not.
No, for sure. And I mean, these are always very casual conversations, so not expecting anything. In fact, I've really enjoyed our chat. Are there any final comments? Anything you want to say to wrap it up?
To what? To you or to the people watching?
To the people watching, to me, I don't know. Putting you on the spot.
I would say this might sound savage, but it is what it is. But I'll just say, don't expect anybody to save you, right? Like, you need to understand that if you truly want to succeed, like, it's you running your business, right? Like, even with the stuff that I learned from you, in terms of my systems, and you still need to put in the work, right? I feel like some people think that somebody's gonna just save them. I don't know. I just get that vibe in a lot of the SMMA stuff. Like, yeah, that's basically what I would say. Apologies if that hurt your feelings. So.
Dude, that is such a I know, and no, I'm glad you say that, man. I think that's a very, very important point. And I mean, it applies for the SME community, but also like pretty much in every single business model out there. There's people who think there's like without putting in the work, someone's just gonna like save them and this silver bullet mentality and this magic pill mentality. But yeah, no, I agree with that, and that's a wrap, my man. All right. That is that for my chat with Rich. A very interesting and wide-ranging conversation, and really hope you could take a lot of value nuggets away from it. Now, if you're looking to start or scale your social media marketing agency, finally get results, finally start an online business that actually has success, where you can truly feel like a business owner because you're adding value to real people and you've got a team in place that can allow you to remove yourself from the equation, you can go ahead and apply for my mentorship by clicking the first link in the description. We'll jump on a call, see if you're a good fit, and if you are, we'll move forward. Now, this is not for everyone, it is paid, so keep that in mind. But if you are interested in getting results with your agency in the e-commerce space, go ahead and schedule an application call. And with that being said, hope everything's going well in your journey, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.